yesterday, the Senate approved President Muhammadu Buhari's request for a loan of $850 billion to fund the 2020 budget, which is threatened by the falling price of crude, to fight and also to fight the COVID-19 pandemic. Joining us is the Chairman Senate Committee on Appropriations, Senator Barau Jibrin. Good morning, sir. Are you there?
Good morning. Good for having me.
Good to have you on the show. So would you say yesterday's passage was record-breaking? 5 minutes, I heard you were done.
Yeah.
Now, as much as we understand the urgency, people are worried that the federal government is borrowing from the domestic capital market, which is practically our funds, the bonds, the treasury bills, and all that. And it's worrisome on how the fact that we didn't do a thorough process on how the government plans to pay back this money. Nigerians are a bit worried. Yes, we understand the urgency, but shouldn't it have followed a due process before approval?
Well, let me clear the air on what was requested for by Mr. President. You see, the request, the loan you're talking about has been approved sometime before now. What was requested by Mr. President is the borrowing mix. That is, changing the amount to be borrowed externally, that is given more, asking that the borrowing should be more internally rather than having more to be borrowed externally. Oh. Because the initial request that was granted, the approval that was granted to Mr. President is to borrow more externally. Now, because of the current situation of the international financial system, due to the problem of COVID-19, therefore makes the cost of borrowing overseas to be higher than what is applicable here internally. Right. And that is why the executive decided that, look, we're going to change the borrowing mix now to borrow more internally. So this is what happened. It's not as if it was a new request. It's not at all.
Okay.
It was a request granted before now.
Okay, point taken. Go ahead.
So I read in the papers the defense for why they decided to borrow internally and it being a more economical choice considering the change in the fluctuation of dollar price and the profits, the interest rates being better locally. But I want you to explain, to break it down. What does borrowing internally mean and who is giving the government these monies?
Well, that was not, when we say, it could be from bonds that will be issued and so on and so forth. So, but what I want, the bottom line is the fact that due consideration has been taken in terms of the impact on the domestic financial market. It will not be something that will create negative effect on the domestic international market. In the domestic financial market. All those issues were resolved, were looked at before the request was brought to us. And we listened. There was an informal interface with the finance ministry before that proposal was brought to the National Assembly. Right. So we're convinced that it's going to be better for the country to get the money borrowed internally because the cost of borrowing here is now cheaper compared to what is applicable in the international financial system.
All right,
all right, so the President's letter to the Senate for this request did not include a detailed, explanation on what the money was to be used for. He just mentioned critical projects. I was expecting that at least the Senate would have proved, asked him to give like a breakdown of these critical project so that we know where exactly the money is going to before approval.
Okay, let me tell you, I told you we've been having informal interface. We've been talking, we've been interfacing with the executive arm of government, with the Ministry of Finance and so on and so forth. So we told beforehand, and these are projects, these are issues that have been dealt with, have been issued. They've been dealt with before now. We've been given approval. We've given approval to the executive before now. So it's not a new thing altogether. Not a new thing. I told you from the beginning.
Let me ask.
What I was given is the borrowing mix now.
Right.
Borrowing more internally rather than borrowing more
Right. Let me ask you this question, sir. As Chairman Senate Committee on Appropriation, we've been getting quite a bit of money recently from EU. We just heard yesterday that Germany also sends about 2.2 billion naira, money from Africa Development Bank. Quite a bit of funds have come into Nigeria. What's the National Assembly doing to ensure that these monies are appropriately spent for the right purpose?
You see, we have a very, very established system, financial system in this country.
Right.
And I want to tell you, it's one of the best in the whole world.
Okay.
Once these monies come in, these are mere pronouncement. And once they come in, they're going into the consolidated revenue fund of the government. And they will not be spent until they have been appropriate. I mean, until they go through the process of appropriations. So there's nothing to worry about all these monies coming in. Once they come in, as I said, they are going straight into the consolidated revenue fund in line with the provision of our constitution.
Right.
And once a dime, a kobo is going to be spent, it has to be brought to the National Assembly for for appropriations.
Okay.
So don't worry about that.
Okay, with this 850 billion, should we still be expecting a budget cut? Because this, I believe, was a part of the first budget that was set. So you are just showing it up with the 850. Should we still expect a budget cut?
Of course, they should be. Our revenues are not coming in the way they should. This is just a portion of our what we are going to use in funding the budget. It's not the totality of the money we are going to use in funding the entire budget.
Okay.
So they should be cut because the revenues are not flowing in just the way we had projected initially because of the COVID-19 pandemic.
Let me take
the effect of COVID-19 pandemic.
All right. Because of time, I'd like to throw in as many questions as possible. Yesterday at the plenary, the Speaker, Honorable Gbajabiamila, was saying that this is a rare opportunity for us to fix things, paraphrasing now, that we must cut the cost of governance drastically, and we must begin to see what we can do to fix our economy. You were in the plenary yesterday. Could you tell us a bit about what exactly was agreed? And were there the specified steps? Okay, you know this, and specified steps on what we can do to ensure that we can cut cost of governance across board to make more funds available for us to use?
Well, first of all, maybe you have forgotten I'm not in the House of Representatives.
Yeah, Senate. I just realized that.
I was in the plenary of the House of Representatives, and I have not heard what they discussed. But let me say, this has been in the forefront of our objectives in the National Assembly as a whole to make sure that we cut cost of governance, cost of running our government. But in doing so, we have to be very, very careful, make sure that we do that diligently without allowing people to lose their jobs. Because on one hand, you are acting, you want to get more Nigerians engaged, and on the other hand, you want to send them out of work. Well, when it is necessary, sometimes you need to balance all these factors in a way. It creates a balance, between these factors, two factors, and have a very good, in order to have a very good system. So we are looking. It's an ongoing process. We are doing that. We are looking at that, to make sure that we cut cost of running our government.
All right. Let me get a few more questions. Go ahead.
So, sir, many people are worried about the fact that misappropriation of funds will take place within the loads of money we're getting. You're saying that we shouldn't worry about it, that the system is tight. I want to take your word on that. Number two is the fact that there will never be a good time to streamline the system, and everybody has said and everybody has agreed that we run a very expensive democracy. Yeah. So now we have a very good excuse to cut it. To what extent can the Senate or the House of Assembly impose on the executive to cut down? Is it the job of the House of Assemblies to say that this is where we want to cut down, this is how we want to cut down, or is it the job of the executive to say this is what to do? Can you clarify that so that we know who to face in protest? Let me tell you something that is being done, not in the open. Yes, we are under lockdown in Abuja, but that does not stop us from working with the executive closely. We've been working. All this while we've been working, we've been interfacing with the executive arm of government. And all what we've been doing is in line with these facts we just stated. We've been trying to see how do we cut costs? How do we begin to downsize, our government in a way that will not be incurring so much cost, in terms of...
I hope we passed that level.
Is it the House of Assembly that, can we by law decide to stop having bicameral chambers instead of having Senate and House of Rep. Let's just have one. Can the House of Assembly make that decision to say we are going to collapse it?
It's something that has to do with the amendment of the Constitution. And you know, it's not within the purview of the National Assembly alone to amend the Constitution. What you are saying has to do, you cannot do that, one cannot do that, except there's an amendment.
Okay. We just want to be sure. We don't want to talk shop again. That's what I think Toko wants to be sure that we're not just talking about it. But let me ask you this question concerning the IMF's condition for the loan, $3.4 billion loan that they have approved. They're saying that we must have a unified exchange rate. How possible is that? Is that something we can see happen? Because we've not heard anything from the Central Bank of Nigeria on this so far.
Well, I do not want to put the cart before the horse.
Okay.
Issues like these are issues that have to be determined by the entire National Assembly. We need to work within our system and make sure that we go through our process. So I don't want to preempt what the National Assembly will do. I want to get this put on the table of both chambers, discuss the issue, and then, of course, then we'll be able to, I'll be able, as a chairman of one of the committees of the Senate, make my observation on whatever I need to say about it. I don't want to preempt the National Assembly. It's against our rules.
All right, sir. So amidst this borrowing, we are borrowing so much right now, and my fear is that we are sinking every day into debt, and I do not know how we plan to come out of it. So is there any plan somewhere among the lawmakers? Is there anything you guys are working on to ensure that you increase our revenue after COVID-19? Is there any plan on ground for post-COVID-19?
Let me tell you, you must borrow. You must borrow to develop your infrastructures. You must borrow to create a stable environment for the private sector to thrive. If you don't do that, you go nowhere. All nations that are successful did the same thing, almost did the same thing. Now, when you borrow and get all what you need to put in place done, and the private sector begin to work very well, you begin to make revenue, get revenues. And then, of course, you pay back this loan. This is the system. This is the model. Okay. It's very, very important. And if you don't borrow, your economy becomes stagnant, and it will be, you create a doom scenario in the country. So it is the best way to go is to borrow.
I have to ask you.
America is the most established, most developed economy in the whole world. It borrows.
Okay, point taken.
Look at all successful economies in global. They have to borrow. I
need to ask you about Kano, because you're from Kano.
Yes.
I don't want to flog the issue of the deaths, because we talked about it several times, and we know that the Presidential Task Force is also on this already. But the issue of the economic development in Kano State as a result of the reduced revenue from the federal government, the allocation coming in from the federal government, obviously will be reduced as a result of the oil prices. And Kano State has a huge population. Do you have an idea of what the government could be planning to ensure that their state is not so hit as a result of this reduction of revenue coming in? Because we don't really see any major IGR from that state.
Well, you see, the issue, I mean, the effect of COVID-19 pandemic, is something that is going to affect, or is affecting every country, every subnational, and Kano cannot be an exception. But the only thing is that we have a governor in Kano who is very, very proactive, who is alive to his duties, and he has started already to see how you can look inwards to do that it mitigates the effect of COVID-19 pandemic on the economy of Kano. You know, Kano is the commercial nerve center of the entire northern Nigeria. No state in the north that does not have one thing or the other to Kano commercially or even politically. So, and Kano is playing that very role under the administration of the present governor. He's doing very well, very, very proactive. And I can show you.
You keep using the word proactive. That word proactive.
Because in the paper this morning, I read the Kano State governor asking for help from the federal government and everybody, saying that they are having challenge with the traditional system. People have a traditional disbelief concerning this disease. So, and this is not a new thing. Like, Lagos shut down 6 weeks ago.
So you say proactive.
So when we say proactive, and we're just having a shutdown imposed by the federal government, when people died last week, So I'm wondering, how do you, sir, define being proactive?
Thank you.
My God. Well, I say proactive because, you see, what you're talking about, you're talking about the pandemic, the COVID-19 pandemic. You see, even the most powerful country on earth, United States of America, is receiving intervention from other from external sources. Russia has come in to help America. China has come in to help America. COVID-19 has brought the most powerful onto their knees. So Kano cannot be an exception.
Right.
He's been proactive because he has come out to say, calculated all what he can do for his people, I mean the governor, and the gap remaining that he cannot cover. He had decided to come to tell the world, look, I can do and that, but I cannot really solve the entire problem. Right. Please, I need your intervention. He has not allowed the situation to come on the helpless,
right,
in a way that we cannot contain this, this pandemic. He has not allowed that to happen before asking for intervention from outside, and that's been proactive.
All right,
That's been proactive.
Okay, let me go on a quick break. There are a few more questions for you. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
All right, thank you.
Stay tuned. Your view will be...
Thanks for staying with us, sir. So let me, BC had a question. Go ahead.
All right. So in the West, we ran into problems because when people were asked to stay at home, a lot of them refused to stay at home because they had to eat. Now, you're going to be starting this 30-day lockdown. What are the measures you've put in place? 2 days?
2 weeks.
2 weeks, yes, 2 weeks. What are the measures you've put in place to ensure that your citizens stay in the house during the lockdown?
Well, first of all, let me begin by saying, by telling you what the entire state is going to do or has been doing. Even before now, there has been a COVID-19 palliative committee set up by the state government.
Okay.
And it has been working around the clock, making sure that it takes to the poor of the poor palliative items, to help them for food and so on and so forth. And at the central level, like my senatorial zone, I'm also doing that, sending particularly, making sure that those who are in the rural areas, I give them items that will help them because they are now indoors, they don't go out. Okay. So we've been giving them food and other essential commodities for their survival, for them to use, so that they will not remain at home without the necessary items they need to run their lives. So it's an ongoing thing, and we continue to do that until the situation will return to normalcy.
All right, let me ask concerning the deaths we heard in Kano State. I know we've talked about it a few times, but the president did express his deep concern for these deaths. And the truth is, we are worried about the fact that a lot of we heard about this news mostly from when cemetery attendants began to complain, telling us what's raising alarm. Now, I'd like you to help me understand the medical network, the system there. How come we didn't hear from the Ministry of Health ahead of time concerning the deaths? What's the process in them informing, getting information across from the various mortuaries or hospitals saying that we're having an increase in number of deaths? But it was almost as if nothing was done. We just heard it from the news, from the cemetery attendants, that they are overwhelmed with lots of corpses back to back. So could you give us an understanding of how your system runs in Kano State, the health system?
Let me tell you, one fact I want to make it clear is that you can hardly find any state that is spending so much on its health system like Kano. As we speak, the government of Kano established a very, very big hospital just recently. This was a project that was started about 15 years ago, but was not, just about 10% completion.
Okay.
The hospital was completed and has the state of the most modern equipment. As we speak, there are several such hospitals around Kano. And currently, there's an ongoing project for the construction of a very, very big hospital to take care of cancer patients.
Right.
So it's a government that has been spending a lot. Now, Well, let me come to the issue. Now, the issue of the increase in the number of deaths we are seeing in Kano as reported by some newspapers. I don't want to go into that now because a committee has been set up and is going around to find out the facts around this matter. I don't want to preempt this, the activity of this committee because it's purely a professional matter.
Right.
And as a politician, I don't want to make any comment on that. And what I want to show you, I want to assure you, and I want to tell you, based on my own findings, it was something. It is normal, you find number of this kind of deaths at this kind of in this period of the year, where you have high temperatures. You are going to about 40-something degrees and so on and so forth. And then we have been experiencing this kind of situation, year in, year out in Kano.
Right.
But I do not want to, as I said,
okay. All right. Point taken.
We will wait to get the part of the committee.
Senator Jibrin, I want to ask you specifically concerning your constituency. How are you spreading the information concerning COVID-19 to your people? Yeah. Down to the villages to let them understand how to protect themselves and breaking down why they should sit at home?
Yeah, we are doing that day in, day out, and in collaboration with the relevant agencies country. It's a collective responsibility. It's not something that one person alone will do. It's not a thing that is, okay, I'll do it separately.
I thought you were in Abuja, sir.
We are working with the federal agencies. We are working with the state agencies that are saddled with the responsibility of telling people how they should control themselves, how they should follow the protocols established by World Health Organization and other agencies that are professionally saddled with dealing with this crisis. So it's an ongoing thing, and we are doing that very, very well. So, and I can assure you, and I want to let you know that our people are now becoming more aware of the dangers of these serious and devastating pandemic.
Okay. Is there any plans to protect your people from traveling interstates? Because there's a lot of community infections going on right now.
Yes, there's a total lockdown, so nobody will travel. And I commend the governor. He has established several courts to deal with the defaulters of this very, very important exercise. And people are now abiding by the protocols established for the sake of dealing with this pandemic. So people are getting to understand, and the tendency now is very much on the side of abiding by the rules and by the protocols to deal with this very, very devastating pandemic.
We have to wrap up. Let me take you back to the fact that you're chairman committee on appropriation. Contractors are worried at this time that their budgets that they've presented before COVID might have to be slashed as a result of the budget cuts across the board. Is there anything the government is doing to work with them at this time? Because a lot of them have complained that if all their work has been reduced so far, and they fear not being paid by the government as a result of the slashing budget. Is that
Everybody's worried. The government is worried itself because it's not getting more revenues.
Right.
It's okay, so it's not getting revenues as projected, so it's not going to deliver the promises it has made to the people of the country. It's worried. Not only the Nigerian government, the governments all over the world. It's something that is affecting the entire world. So we're also worried. Personally, I'm also worried because my government, the government of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, which is an AP's government, the party that got me through to become, a senator, is not going to be able to fulfill the promises it has put forward to the people because of this devastating pandemic. So not only contractors, it's something that involves everybody. So let them rest assured that the president, indeed the entire executive arm of government and the legislature, we are working very hard to mitigate the effects of this dangerous pandemic so that we'll have the best out of it.
All right, final question for you. Go ahead.
All right, sir. So security officials across the papers this morning from different states were complaining that they are not properly equipped, did not have the personal protective equipment to handle and enforce the lockdown. How have you equipped the people of the security officials of Kano State? Do they have what it takes to their masks, their sanitizers, to be on the road to enforce the lockdown?
So we are coming there. We are doing our best. Kano State government is doing its best. And that's why it decided that, oh, look, it became more proactive than by saying that, look, we can do up to so extent.
Wow,
but beyond that, we need intervention. Just like the way America requested for Chinese intervention, for the Russians intervention. So that's why we have to more intervention in Kano so that we can deal with the problem appropriately. And let me be rest assured that the legal resources within. But you know one thing.
All right.
All the equipment, all the protective equipment you're talking about, it's something you buy off the shelves of a supermarket or pharmacy.
I have to let you go at this time, sir.
That we need to have, and it's becoming so scarce, and that's why I want federal government to intervene, to assist us, so that we will not have problems.
All right, sir. Thank you so much.
Who are in the front line.
Thank you so much for joining us, sir. We appreciate your thoughts this morning.
You're welcome.
Reminding us how proactive the Kano State government has been.
I think
we'll be speaking with the Chairman Senate Committee on Appropriations, Senator Barau Jibrin.
I think that the U.S. is a very, very bad example.
It's not even that. That's not even the point. The point is that I remember during Jonathan presidency, when we had that UN explosion, and he was saying that this is how it happens around the world.
And everybody trashed them.
Yeah, and the same
So
thing.
I don't think America is the perfect example. There are many other countries, Singapore, South Korea, Senegal. There are countries that have found doing a better way of managing
we can take
this
on this show. Thank you very much, unfortunately. So we know that Kano State government is quite proactive, and we'll continue to look out for them. Let's wrap up the show. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye.
Bye.